Welcome to the grand final of Orange Fishermania XI. 16 qualifying rounds have given us 16 winners here today, fishing for the title of Fishermania Grand Champion. Only one of them can win and walk away with British angling's biggest prize. Matt Hall grabbed the title last year, a last-minute carp relegating Darren Cox, who led for most of the day, to second and nowhere. This year, Cox is back and he's out to win it. So the scene is set. Hayfield Lakes looks at its best. Already thousands of spectators are lining the banks, ready for angling's gladiators to get it on. This is Fishermania. Yesterday evening, the competitors gathered at the Hayfield Arms. Music, food and plenty of banter. And to learn their fate at the draw.
13 to 16 will do me now, not a problem, but I think there's also quite a lot of pegs that you can do well off other than 13 to 16. It's a lot fairer this year than it was last year, that's for sure.
People have placed a lot of emphasis on the draw. Do you think it's more of an open field?
I think it's probably a bit more of an open field than last year, but there's going to be areas where there's actually more fish. Where they are now, I don't know.
It's just the room, basically. I mean, 13, you've got a lot of room. You've got 3 empty pegs to your right, so it's got to be good. 16, again, you've got a whole bank empty to your left. So, you know, anywhere there, you can draw a lot of fish in from the empty space.
Competitors, it is that very important time when you draw your pig. Your destiny is in this bag.
Last year's winner, Matt Hall, looked on as the draw took place. Rob Hitchens was immediately installed as Even's favourite on peg number 14. Next to him is Ian Dixon on 13. And with plenty of room out in the corner is Andy Findlay, who drew peg number 16.
It's just extra pressure on me. I'm nervous at the best of times, but now it's, well, I just have to see how I get on.
Nice to draw 13, but personally, I still think the peg to draw was 16.
Do you think this bank is going to be quite strong though?
Yes, it is. Angler-wise and fishing-wise, yeah, it's very strong.
And here's how the pegs line up. 20-year-old Andy Pickersgill, the baby of the event, is in peg 1. Darren Cox, looking to improve on last year's second spot, in 2, with Lee Woodhouse, who broke the qualifying record in his heat with over 200 pounds of carp, in 3. Ian Covey in 4 caught the qualifier's biggest fish, a 20-pound 10-ounce carp at Willow Park. Matchman of the Year Neil Machin is in 10, with 3 of the tournament's favourites, with the bookie in 14, 15 and 16. Rob Hitchens in 14 was once banned from Hayfield Lakes for winning 22 contests in a row. He'd give up every one of those to be top weight today. This is how the pegs are positioned. You can see the extra space Neil Machin was talking about for 13 and 16, and pegs 7 to 10 have lots of water in front of them. Now's the time for fine-tuning tackle, and there's probably best part of £100,000 worth of kit on the bank today. The anglers will have been preparing their bait. Live feeds such as worms and maggots will have been pampered. Pellets, pastes and ground bait mixed with all sorts of secret potions. All for 5 hours of winner-takes-all action. Each angler has a personal advisor with them for the day, maybe a trusted teammate or a local matchman who can help tweak the tactics to put those all-important few extra fish into the net. But soon the signal will sound for the all-in, and it's every man for himself. Here's our MC, John McDonald.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to Hayfield Lake here in Doncaster. It's Orange Fishermania XI. The viewers are ready, our fans are ready, and our anglers are ready. Ladies and gentlemen, it's all in!
Whilst it's important to get off to a good start, it's even more vital to stay calm. There are plenty of big fish in Hayfield, with some of the carp weighing over 5 kilos each. As Darren Cox found out last year, it can all change so quickly. Here's how the prizes are split. The champion has his winner-takes-all purse of £25,000. There's £2,500 for the biggest single fish, plus cash prizes for the ladies and junior events and some crystal for the celebrities. And somewhere, swimming around Hayfield, there's an orange fish, tagged by a microchip. If someone catches that, it's a 25 grand bonus. Well, the important thing about the pegs, really, for a lot of anglers, is what room they've got. And if you take a look at peg 16, which is down here, there's a huge area there where there's no anglers, it's peaceful, it's quiet, there's plenty of room. Peg 13 similarly, in this corner, has got plenty of space to go out. Now that's critical because the fish will move out the way of the crowds. They're not used to seeing throngs of people here. The breeze is going to be important. Now, it's been all over the place this morning, it's really been calm, but it's just setting up a bit north-easterly, which blows into this corner, and that increases, my view, the chances of peg 16 to do well. But we've said all this before, and it's worked out that it hasn't been just like that. Up at the other end, at peg 2, where Darren Cox is, in this area here, there's been a big shoal of fish working this morning. You can see them bubbling and blowing on the surface. So, you know, everybody on the lake is thinking they've got a great chance.
So what you're saying is it could come down to the weather conditions, it could come down to literally the way the wind is blowing for the fishermen this afternoon.
Oh yeah, the great thing about wind, what wind does is it ripples the water, it pushes anything floating on the top into that corner, the water then turns over underneath and floating items of food are dragged there and the fish follow the wind.
I think we have our first fish of the day, Darren Cox, who lost out in the vital seconds last year in the first minutes of FishOMania 11. Looks as though he's about to bag one. He's on peg 2, which we didn't think was one of the better pegs.
Darren was quite confident. He practiced peg 3 in the week and had plenty of fish, and he was entirely happy with his draw this morning. Obviously, he'd quite like to be in 14, 15 or 16, but there's a hell of a lot of competition on those pegs. He rather fancies having that end of the lake more to himself.
Now tell us about that. We will be introduced to the fish a little later on in the programme. For somebody who doesn't know a cod from a haddock, from a breech or a carp, what's in there? What's in the pond this afternoon? What's he going to catch?
Well, that's a carp, and that's what most of the anglers are fishing for because they're the biggest weight. But the interesting thing you would have seen there, how he plays the fish, rather than using a rod and reel, and when the fish runs, you have to give it line, he's using a pole with elastic inside the pole, and the elastic is the shock absorber that actually plays the fish, and you balance the tension of your elastic against the weight of your breaking strain of your line to help land the fish as quickly as possible without the risk of hook pulling out.
Just very quickly, how big is that fish?
Now you put me on the spot. It looked like it was 1.5 kilos.
Right, I think that we have Lee Woodhouse, who is on peg 3. Who is that a carp?
Yeah, that's a carp.
I'm learning about this game, aren't I?
Better, yeah, that's probably 1.5 kilos, yeah. And he's a good angler, Lee Woodhouse. He is, a lot of people haven't spoke about him, but I promise you, he is a top quality angler, this kid.
We qualified for this by getting a bag of £208
yeah, he's a good
at Hun Street Lakes. And he's got off to a flying start here. We'll find out what he's got in the weigh in a few moments' time.
One thing about Lee as well, he's quite a cool customer, and he won't be nervous or anything. He's really cool. And
this is Neil Machin here, who's on peg 10, Midland Angler of the Year.
And he's also reigning Camasan champion from last year in one of the angling magazines. Another lad that's been around for a while. The last couple of years has just took probably that area where he comes from by storm, like winning everything. Another tremendous angler. Like I said, the field is fantastic this year, really is.
Well, they're all trying to get the fish in very early into the net so they can get the fish in for the weigh-in.
So, who's going to be the first name on top of the leaderboard? And it is Darren Cox, the man who was on top for so long in FishOMania 10, goes straight into the lead. But only 5 anglers have troubled the scorers in the first 30 minutes. But never forget, it's a marathon, not a sprint. This fish is attached to Glenn Thorne's rig, but it appears to be foul-hooked. Fish fouled accidentally still count, but they're much harder to land than fish hooked in the mouth. And that one proves it. A good fish, maybe 3 kilos, would have put Glenn right up there, but it's gone. Time to wipe that out of your mind and get back in there. So here's the scores after the first hour. Andy Pickersgill leapfrogs to first place in front of Darren Cox. Ian Covey, the veteran of the field, moves into third. We've still only got 7 anglers with fish in the net, but there's plenty of time for that to change. The fancied pegs 13 through 16 don't have a fish between them, proving it's not only football that's a funny old game. Now you can see Lee's fishing on rod and line. He's got a big waggler float on, fishing out into the area away from the crowds. He's fishing well out into the lake. And he's fishing quite deep as well, and that looks a good quality fish.
You might have floating bread on the sea being that deep. That's a big fish, that.
Yeah.
There he is over there on peg 3, which was one of the quieter pegs, but of course the crowds will congregate, Keith, wherever the fish have been caught this afternoon.
Oh, exactly, yeah. But that's a decent fish. That'll be 2.5 kilos, yeah, maybe 3. And Lee, you can see he's got a big bucket of pellets beside him, and he'll be fishing those non-stop. And as he goes out on the waggler float's just attached by the bottom. So when you cast out, you can actually sink your line under the surface to stop any surface movement dragging it about.
Let's play the idiot's guide. You be the guide, I'll be the idiot. What's a waggler float?
I've just told you. It's a piece of peacock quill with a balsa body at the bottom, and the line goes through the bottom of the float and it's locked in position on the line. The great thing with that is that you can go out between the rod and the float, you can sink the line to keep the float still and then feed round it.
I am making notes. Lee Woodhouse, who the last weighing was in 5th position. He got 1.44 kilos.
Tench there, Tom.
Last one.
That was, who was that? Look.
Peg 11. Chris Eves.
Chris Eves.
Peg 11. Chris Eves, yeah. That's where my money is, remember.
Yes.
You'll be losing your job as the expert very, very shortly. Chris Eves, who has done reasonably well. At least he's got something on the board. He's over there on peg 11, 7th position at the moment. As Keith so rightly said, it is a marathon, not a sprint. It went down to just after 5 o'clock, the final seconds last year, one of the most entertaining events on Sky Sports. And this afternoon, as Barry Hearns was saying last night, we give it the Sky Sports treatment. We'll have slow motion replays and everything as the fish are caught this afternoon. Hopefully you will not miss a trick. There is Chris, looking reasonably happy with himself, as he will do with £25,000 if he can pull it off this afternoon. Not travelled far.
Got another fish on there.
He's doing well.
Just
He's on
into
fire.
another fish, yeah.
He fishes one at local venues I go to, and his mate behind him, they fish cat food all the time, and they have tremendous success. It'd be interesting to see if he's actually fishing cat food.
This is over to Steve Cook, I think we're going to go now. Steve, one of the old timers, the winner in '99. This is his 4th final. Let's go down to peg 10. Here's Neil Machin, Midland Angler of the Year. He describes fishing as 1st, 2nd and 3rd priority in his life. His family are 4th. His wife describes him as untidy, lazy and only ever talks about fish. He's finally got one. Identify it for me, Keith.
It looks like he's fishing on the surface. I would say that fish is probably hooked in the fin. It looks like it's gone for the bait and has missed it, and it's hooked in the body somewhere, because the way it's fighting, if it was in the mouth, it'd be up on the surface by now. Always tricky when you hook fish. You never want to try and hook them anywhere but the mouth, because it's not good for the fish. It's difficult to land them, and you do it by accident. But sometimes you have to. They still count because you're not trying to hook them in the body deliberately. But he's having a much bigger battle with that than he would if it was hooked in the mouth.
He says that he's fished all of his life, and with a bag of £89 at Woodland View. Now, your favourite beforehand was the fin. They've all got names. It's a little bit like, you know, the darts world and boxing world. We're talking about Andy Finley, who's over on peg 16.
Now, the fin is using a method that I've not seen before. He's got a method
You've
feeder.
seen everything.
No, I've not seen that. This is the first for me, and it's the first for Tommy. He's got a method feeder attached to the end of his pole. Now, what a method feeder is, it's a frame that you mould ground bait round. Normally, you put it on a running line and have it near your hook. What the fin's done, he's fixed it to the end of his pole, and he's got his bait hanging just below it. And he's going out, it's quite a stiff mix of ground bait, because he lays it on the surface, and every 15 or 20 seconds he gives the pole a little shake, and a little cloud of particles come off the ground bait over his hook bait, and his hook is about 18 inches underneath it. And he's had fish swirling around all the time, and that's the first one in the net.
That is nice, with a
That's a good fish
approval from the fans behind the fish fans behind him as well.
There's 3 kilos there. It's a good fish.
There's one thing about fishing, you always learn something, and we've learned something today. We've never seen that method done before. So even we've learned something.
Stuart's quiet over there, studiously.
I fancied Andy before the start, and I still do. I still think he's penny, and it's early days, and it's just one fish, 4 kilos.
Push you back into it.
He was blanking before, and he was leading, so I think it's still early days yet.
Look, we've seen Chris has another fish. Now, we've just seen him catch 2 fish back to back. That looks like a barbel.
It is a barbel.
Now, that's knocking a kilo. He's putting some fish in there.
What he's actually done now, he's actually gone to his strength, and the venues he fishes, he catches a lot of fish on cat meat, and I'm sure what he did, he put some in at start and laid a bed, and then he started fishing shallow with a small floater, a dibber or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's caught nothing and realised he's gone on to his normal method.
Yeah.
And where he likes to fish, and it's paid off, and let's hope he keeps catching them.
Let's go down for the weighing. We just heard the hooter. Dickie Davis is down there.
We're down here on peg 3 with Lee Woodhouse. Again, this side of the bank, not normally very good in previous years. It's been terrific so far this year. And that's another fair-sized one for Lee Woodhouse. We've got Andy Pickersgill up the end, who's in the lead. Darren Cox has been doing well. Now Lee Woodhouse is in the frame. Let's just see how much this one weighs.
£1 kilo 8. Stay still. 1 kilo 870.
1 kilo 870 for Lee Woodhouse.
There is Lee Woodhouse, who at the last weigh-in was in 5th place. He missed out on £25,000 at the Schoolmasters.
We've seen him catch 1 lump, and this looks like another lump, fishing that waggler again, fishing well out into the lake, and you can see there are fish cruising around all over the lake. It's a very positive method.
It's nice to see 1 or 2 new methods, on the final being used as well, like the waggler and what Andy Finn is doing, and what Chris Eves is doing.
And fishing at depth, that's a ghost carp, look. I didn't believe in ghosts till I come here.
A few haunted this afternoon.
Yeah, it's a cracking fish,
Slow, methodical, doesn't want to let that one go away, does he?
You'll see that spectre of £25,000 going in front of him.
Remember last year it came down to the final seconds, and of course the guys had to hurry the fish in, didn't they? Because they didn't want to lose them. Once that final hooter goes at the end of the day, Fishermania is over.
It's not in the net, it doesn't count like a world championship. In normal open matches we can have 15 minutes grace after the match to land a big fish.
There's our fish cam.
Yeah.
The view from above. Fish is happy to be on the television as well.
So, a lot more action at last, and here's how it's looking. Andy Pickersgill hangs on to his lead, but Chris Eves' run of tension smaller carp have pushed him up to 2nd spot, and the first of the flyers gets in. The Finn makes a move to 6th. Steve Cook on 15 gets his first fish, and Glenn Thorne must be ruining that big carp dropping off at the net.
You said, Keith, as well, they're popping their heads above the water down there as well, aren't they?
You can see fish swimming in the top all the time where the bait's going. You can actually see fish coming onto the bait, which is incredible. Now, Darren Cox has gone onto the waggler, like Lee Woodhouse next to him, and we've seen him catch 2 fish already. And there's a real diversity of methods. I've just noticed Barry Williamson is fishing right in the margins, and he's creeping up the leaderboard in 4th place. So we've got sort of 5 of the top 6 are doing something different.
Darren, who's determined for the 25 grand. And he just missed out on last year. As you can hear, the crowd are getting very excited as the fish are coming in thick and fast.
Glenn Thorne's first. That's Glenn's first fish.
It's not easy for you to say.
No, it isn't. Glenn Thorne's first fish is very difficult to say.
Andy Finley's just had a big carp there.
Yeah.
Just, they're that close. You can see
Not
it.
peg 16.
Yeah,
Not really.
Peg 16. Yeah, I'm sure it is, yeah.
If you're just tuning in, that's where Keith had his money this afternoon on the high-ranking pegs 13,
You've
14,
not got
15,
50 quid on it.
No, I borrowed some money off Bob to have on it. There's the fin. I'll tell you one thing, he's a real master at playing fish, Andy Finley. He very rarely loses fish. Now, watch this one come off now, but he's a master at catching fish. He wastes nothing, the thing. That's a good carp. I'll tell you what, that's the biggest. I'll bet that pushes Andy Pickersgill.
That's a big carp, yeah.
I'll get £1 on that.
What, you reckon that's bigger?
No, it's short. It's not as big as Andy's that.
Not £10 that one?
No.
All right.
It was this big, said the fisherman. £2,500 for the biggest fish that he's caught to date. Do you want to take that one back?
No, 8.12 that.
8.12?
Yeah,
£8.12.
Yeah.
So we're working in kilos this afternoon.
Kilos, 3 kilos 700 then.
Yeah.
One thing that'll put him probably on the top of the leaderboard at the moment.
Won't be far off. That's put him back in the race.
Yeah.
And if he starts catching fish, anything could happen.
Right, top of the table at the moment, the youngest competitor, 20-year-old Andrew Pickersgill. Before he's 21, he could have £25,000 in his bank account because he is catching them fast and furiously this afternoon.
Another kilo going in there.
Yeah.
Neil Machin, who's one of the coolest customers out there, as you'll see by his attire in a moment, who's got himself in the top 10 now with this little star of the lake. Remember that Neil qualified by beating last year's winner Matt Hall by a mere 8 ounces at Woodland View in Stoke. And that's a nice one, Keith, isn't it?
That's another high quality carp, another ghost carp. Looks like he might be fishing the candle method, which is drill out a candle, run the line through it, it floats on the surface, looks like a piece of bread, attracts the fish, you have a floating bait close to it.
Candles, cat meat, luncheon meat, you're learning an awful lot about fishing this afternoon. Rob Hitchens was right at the bottom of the leaderboard as well, but he's just leapt ahead of Stephen Ward. Rob Hitchens on peg 14, reeling his first one in. We're 2 hours into Fishermania 11.
That's another big fish, and it looks like Rob's caught that on the candle too. It's a queer method, and it evolved in this part of the world, like lots of strange methods, like the floating pole, which Tom Picker is responsible for.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, it's all right, just, underline it.
Have you changed your mind this afternoon on what the biggest bag is going to be? You said somewhere around 25 to 30 kilos, I think, at the start of the show, but they're coming in.
Well,
fast, aren't they?
When you look at the size of the fish that they're catching, people like Andy Finley, that's 7 or 8 fish.
The daft thing is, Keith, every one of these anglers can catch that in an hour.
Oh, exactly.
They want 1 good hour.
We've got 3 hours for him to catch 5 fish.
That's right.
Good thinking. Well, the hooter has just gone. That means the weigh-in is imminent. Remember, at the last weigh-in, after the third weigh-in, Andy Pickersgill was leading. He's on peg 1, 5.77. He's with Dickie Davis.
Just waiting for the weigh-in now. We're just going to do the weigh-in now with Andy Pickersgill. He's had a couple of decent catches. He's got one eyed in there, one koi carp. He's caught a few small perch. Don't forget that he's in the lead. He's also got the biggest fish of the day so far, which was a 4.48 kilo mirror carp, which he caught in about the second weigh-in. Stewart's just getting the bag out now, but I think Andy will be very happy with this. He caught one just at the last weigh-in, but it was just a bit too late to make the bag. So there's 2 fairly decent-sized fish in there, one eyed, one koi carp, and a few small perch. He's the current leader with 5.77 kilos. Also the biggest fish at 4.48 kilos. Strangely enough, last year also on peg 1 was also the peg that supplied the biggest fish this time last year. So. He had 1.21 kilos at the last weigh. Let's see what this one's worth. There's a fair few in there. Certainly a few cheers, and as you said earlier, Rob, the crowd is certainly gathering over this side since that Andy Pickersgill might just win this one. Currently leading by 1.43 kilos. Let's just see what the weigh-in says. Andre's our man. Andre, what's it weighing?
2 kilos, something. 2 kilos, 140. 2 kilos, 140.
Peg 10, Neil Machin. Mick the steward's in charge. We've zeroed the scales. Here comes the first one.
We'll weigh that one separate.
Weigh them separate, yeah. That took a good 10 minutes to bring in that one. I can tell you, we played it very, very carefully. Two 720 for that one fish. We've got one more. I'm just going to weigh them separately. So 720 for that one. Put the second one in. go. Cumulative weight of... Hold on, a scale to start. That's it. Let's level it up, get it on even ground. 4-3 something, what do you reckon?
200. 4 kilos.
Yeah, 4,300 for Neil Machin. Over to you, Liz.
Okay, well, we're down at the weigh-in now with Andy Finley again on peg 16. Got a nice fish in here, nice carp. Terry's taking it up in the keeper net. Very carefully handled, as all the fish are here at FishOMania. Look at that, what a beauty. Well, the biggest fish so far is 4 kilos 380. Our own Rob Hitchens got off the mark with a 3 kilo 100, so not quite enough. But this one, no, that's not enough either, is it, Bob?
No, this one's weighing in at 3 kilos and 50 grams.
Not enough for the big fish prize, but enough to push Finley up to 4th on the leaderboard. Andy Pickersgill is still in 1st place, followed by Darren Cox. Neil Machin is right up there now. There are still 4 fishless anglers on the bank, but there is a long way to go. Glenn Thorne has finally got the skunk out of his net, and Adrian Bush has caught a fish.
This is 1st and 2nd, Andy Pickersgill, who's on peg 1, and Darren Cox is not far away from him. He's on peg 3. 1st and 2nd, Darren, who had a bitter experience last year, so close but so far away, and Andy Pickersgill, the baby of the anglers here today, only 20 years of age.
And since the last weigh-in, Lee Woodhouse has caught 2 fish. One was a decent fish and one was a reasonable sized fish. So Lee Woodhouse is going to be up there as well. Pegs 1, 2 and 3. And you wouldn't got many odds on that being the first 3 halfway through the match from Billy Knott last night. Someone who's not very generous with odds anyway. but I've got... This is something I don't do very often. I've got to give Tommy Pickering a pound.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
What's that for again?
I thought Andy Finley's fish was a bit bigger than it was.
It's real as well.
Yeah, I won it off somebody 5 years ago.
Yeah. I'll put that on my mantelpiece. I'll tell you something about Andy Pickersgill. He's fishing quite a cute match actually. Is what he's doing is feeding a 6 metre line with worm and caster and his pellet line further, and every so often he picks his pellet line rig up and goes out, and he's had one first cast when he did it, and when he don't get one within 5 minutes he comes back and catches his other fish. So he's building his fish up, his net up with small fish with worm and caster, and then trying to pick one up on on his pellet line, which will be like 13-14 metres. His dad's behind him, he's telling him what's going off, and when the carp start feeding, if they keep feeding, he's got his pellet line going quite well, so he's fishing quite a cute match.
He could quite easily get a bonus fish there, because I know Bob will tell us about catching fish close in.
Yeah, well, that's where obviously the fish are congregating this afternoon, in the far corner where we didn't fancy them to be this afternoon, and you can see that's the leader, and that's the guy who's in 2nd place. That's where you want to be at this moment in time. But of course, the ever-changing conditions can mean that the fish go elsewhere in the lake, and things can change dramatically, as we found out last year. We found out in previous years as well in FishOMania. But that's where it's hot at the moment. Rob Hitchens there, who's in his 3rd final. He's finished 4th twice before. Currently in 8th place. He predicted this afternoon, I look at his watch there, I think. He predicted that the fish would arrive about 3:30 this afternoon. But they're beginning to catch. Neil Machin, who was in 3rd place, just a couple of kilos behind the leader, Andy Pickersgill, at the last weigh-in, has a decent catch down there. As you can hear, he has a popular following here as well, Keith, doesn't he?
He certainly does. He's not from too far away, the other side of the country. He fishes border fishery a lot near Crewe, and he does a bit of bailiffing there, and he's excellent at catching without using too much feed. When it's tough, he seems to work the method out. Here he is back live.
We've got another one on.
That was one we caught earlier. This is one we catch live. Told you. We give it the full Sky Sports treatment this afternoon. Slow motions, pole cams, you name it. The only thing we haven't got at the moment is an underwater camera, but we'll work on that one maybe for next year. Could be your next innovation, Keith.
Yeah.
That's Neil, who beat Matt Hall, remember, at Woodland View by just 8 ounces. Getting very excited, taking his time, bringing the fish in, and hoping to improve upon 3rd position. So 2 fish back to back, creeping up there, Keith.
He's going to be there or thereabouts, isn't he? He's probably going to be in first place when the next weigh-in comes. We've seen Lee Woodhouse catch a couple of good fish as well, and it's developing into a real seesaw battle all around the lake now. There are people catching odd fish. There's no one running away with it, and that's the great thing about this event. You never know.
Who says you can't entertain with 5 hours of live fishing? This is the fishing equivalent of the FA Cup final. Wonderful family day out, barbecues, fan clubs, you name it this afternoon. As you can see, it's a very good crowd here as well, studiously watching their favourite angles this afternoon. And if you're new to fishing like myself, we talk about pegs. That's the placement on the lake. Keith thought it was going to be the pegs 13 to 16. Early on it was pegs 1 to 4, and the camera is zooming in down there on the middle pegs at the moment, Keith, where the fish are now moving.
Where you normally want to draw in the open matches, as Tommy said, it's either that bank there or the bank on this side, which we can't use because we need our cameras on this bank. But on that long bank is where you normally want to be, in the nearer the middle of it as well, Tom, I think, isn't it?
Nearly always in the middle, just probably because it's more open and there's more space, but normally they're the better pegs. But I think what's happened is there's so many fish in the middle now. It's nice to see 1 or 2 anglers actually trying to catch them out at the middle with. That's right.
See, this is where we're talking about here, and this is the main body of the lake. And this is where the anglers can cast to from these it's got all wonky on me. That's where the pegs are, and this is where they can cast.
That's right.
And they're casting into the main bowl of the lake, where there's just fish to be had. Yeah. We've seen the fish swimming around on the top. We've seen the fish testing the little leaves, everything that's out there. Looking
all they're trying to do is find
the
feeding fish out.
That's right.
There's plenty of fish about, even where the anglers are fishing poles, but there'll be an area where the fish are actually feeding.
Yeah.
And that they feel probably safer in the middle. The fish have moved out and the anglers have cast to them. It's nice to see. Nice to see some anglers actually catching fish on rod and line.
With Andy Pickersgill now, they're well aware of how well Neil Machen is doing, and he's not had quite much success since the last weigh-in. He said things have slowed down for him a little bit. He's starting to struggle. There's a few small perch in there, but he thinks it'll be just about under a kilo. So it'll be interesting to see once we've done this. We can then go back to Neil Machen just to see how he's getting on. Let's just see what there is. It was about 6 or 7 small perch, I think, that he brought in since the last weigh-in. Top of the leaderboard at the moment, Andy Pickersgill. Still got the biggest fish, don't forget, with that mirror carp he caught earlier. Many more in there, chaps? They're putting up a good fight. After Andy, we're going to go over to Darren Cox and see how Darren's getting on. Things have slowed a bit for Darren as well. I think generally things have slowed down on this side of the bank. Andy Pickersgill leads at the minute by 2.1 kilo. Let's just see what this goes. Andre's going to be the man to give us the verdict on how much is in there. It's a bit more than Andy thought it was.
1 kilo, 180. 1 kilo, 180.
1 kilo, 180 for Andy Pickersgill. Will that be enough to keep him in the lead? We're going to see how Darren's getting on. Of course, came so close last year. Pips at the post by Matt Hall. He's gone a little bit longer. He was using the pole a little bit earlier. He's changed tactics. Lee Woodhouse a little further up. He's had a bit more success as well. And this time, let's see. It's a fair size one. Let's see how they get on this time. Andre will have the final say again. Is that it, guys?
Yes, that's it, mate.
That's it. Okay, Andre's got the say.
550 grams. 550 grams.
So 550 grams for Darren Cox. 550 grams.
Congratulations. Peg 2 is weighed 0550.
So there we go. We shall assemble the leaderboard again in a moment. We've got all 16 competitors' latest bags of fish weighed. Pretty disappointing there for Darren Cox, but Neil Machen is creeping up.
I'll tell you what, this is a very, very big fish. I've seen him wind out more than he has wound in. He's playing the fish by, when the fish runs away, he back winds the reel to give the fish line. He's not using the drag. I prefer to use a drag myself, but it's what he's happiest with, he's back winding. And he was giving that fish a lot of line, and I might get my pound back here.
No, I don't know about that. Once I've got it, I don't normally get it back. But that is a good fish, I must. I'll agree with you on that.
It will be a big fish.
And I think he's got 2 inch nets as well.
Yeah, he's got 2
in,
net.
It won't be far off. That is a good fish. Yeah.
It's a very thick fish there.
He'll not be far off leader if he gets this one out.
He won by 8 ounces at Woodland View. Massive catch of 82 pounds in Worcestershire. And the roar of the crowd is enormous.
I won't have the pound on that one, Tom.
No. I'll get you a chance later on. Don't worry, you'll get your chance, mate, to get it back.
That is a beauty, isn't it?
Very good fish.
Remember, the biggest fish of the day collects £2,500. So I suppose conceivably he could go in with £27,500. A lot of money at stake this afternoon. You can see the excitement there of Neil Machin.
And you could catch the goldfish.
Oh, exactly. Oh, yeah,
£52,500.
Catch that one next, yeah.
This is where I think Fishermania changes. These are 3 very decent fish. Just get up behind the stewards. It's 2.5 kilos behind at the minute. That's a tasty fish. There's
Just right with
2.
fish and chips, please.
Just right with fish and chips. Where are you from? Stewards give me a bit of lip there. Here we go. I think this should be better than 2.5 kilos. Here we go. We're round to close to 5.4, is it, Stuart?
5.420.
5 kilos, 420 grams. There you go, that's what you want.
5 kilos, 420.
Well, that could well take him into the lead. Oh, look at the smile on his face. His bank manager could be quite happy as well if he gets that 25 grand in the bank. We will assemble the leaderboard in a moment, but Neil Machin seems at the moment to be a very, very happy man.
That catch is just going to change Fishermania, the way anglers start thinking. Halfway through now, all of a sudden that fact, just 3 carp will start thinking that people start thinking some of these that fishing worm and caster might have to stop fishing worm and caster and start fishing for carp. Even though it's still 2.5 hours to go, it'll start making anglers think, he's going to catch some more carp on that method. We've got to change.
And there's the proof. Neil Machin rockets to the top of the board. Lee Woodhouse stays in 3rd, and Rob Hitchens joins Andy Finley from the famous 4 on the leaderboard. Mick Wright becomes another catcher, his first fish pushing him to 9th, and there are still 3 anglers yet to catch a fish. What is happening? It will change, I promise you.
Steve Cook, who along with fishing says his hobbies are swimming, which is what the winner of Fishermania traditionally does, as he gets thrown in the lake at about 5:30 this afternoon. Steve Cook was in the lake back in '99 when he was the champion. About this time last year, Darren Cox took control of this competition, and he's coming good now. He's currently in 3rd position on peg 2, but he's just reeling one in, Keith.
Another one on the candle as well. Fishing floating baits on the surface. Just candle as the attractor.
Yeah, good one that, yeah.
I don't know who first thought of it, Tom. If it was a Yorkshireman, there's some clever Yorkshiremen. Were you inventing the floating pole? I don't want to keep rubbing it in.
That's not clever though, is it? Let's be honest.
But it was clever for what it was invented for. It was a touch of genius for Hayfield Lakes.
Slight breeze here this afternoon, so that'll be a candle in the wind, I suppose.
Yeah.
Can I go back?
Remember,
Neil again.
first is everything here. £25,000 if you win. Nout, as they say in South Yorkshire, for coming 2nd, which is exactly what poor old Darren got last year, but he's trying to reel them in early on. He's currently in 3rd place, but Neil Machin is top of the leaderboard with a massive catch of 5.42 kilograms. That's 11.03. His total weight is almost 2 kilos ahead, and he's continuing on his prolific run.
Here's Neil Machin again, another fish. there's just more action now. The fish are feeding in bursts though. What you notice is when one angler hooks a fish, somebody else in completely the opposite end of the lake will hook at exactly the same time. It's like someone rings a bell.
It's really weird, isn't it? You have
Really
little
strange.
10-minute spells where there's quite a few anglers playing fish, then 10 minutes where nobody's playing one.
Whether it's when the ripple comes or
maybe.
I just don't know. The cloud goes over the sun, it could be anything.
One thing for sure now, what's happening is they're just casting to the feeding fish in the middle and they're just fishing the pellets on it as like we're a floating pole tip almost, that candle, and just hooking himself like you spoke about earlier. But they're casting to the fish now.
Nick Wright, Peg 9, the stonemason, who carved a fish for us that didn't look too unlike the one he's just caught there, Keeper.
That second, no, the one he carved was slightly heavier, the one you christened Sharon. Sharon the stone
made out of
carp,
stone, yeah. Well, Mick is currently in 9th place on 2.5 kilos, but that may have been improved considerably with that catch.
Getting on for 2.5 kilos there, that one fish, so he's got 2 fish. And this demonstrates exactly what we've been saying. Anyone can win it. I mean, Tom says it every year, and he's right. And here's Darren Cox now. And like we were saying, somebody catches a fish, somebody else catches one. And there's odd fish just exactly the same time around the lake.
It's incredible how that's been happening. Little 10-minute spells, but that's all you need. If somebody has a half an hour spell, they'll like Neil did, they'll go straight into lead again. And that's all you need.
That's 1.5 kilos, not quite 2 kilos, that.
About 175.
Yeah.
Right then, Keith, now the appliance of Sky Sports science.
If there was ever proof required that more room means more fish, this is it. Corner pegs 1 and 16 are high points, but peg 10, where Neil Machin has been outcasting his neighbours, is making his own space. And here's how he's doing it. A blank first hour, then just a few decent fish, and his Manhattan starts to take off. He's got 11 kilos. Last year, only 22 kilos won first prize. He's halfway there.
Whichever way you look at it, Neil Machin's having a wonderful afternoon. Picture of concentration. Top left, you can see the technique. Top right, and down at the bottom, the massive crowd's view of our current leader of Fishermania 11.
The interesting thing here for a lot of people that won't understand what he's doing, he's keeping the rod very low, and fish will pull the opposite direction to the way you pull. So if he keeps the rod low, the fish will come up. So they'll be close to the surface. He's got to bring the rod up when he gets it to the net to actually bring the fish into the net. But you keep the rod as low as possible, because one thing's for certain, if there's any snags, they're on the bottom, not on the surface. And if you can keep the fish on the surface, sometimes it'll just swim in, you can put the net in and net it really quickly. And that's what you're looking to do. He's just lifted the rod now, he's bringing it to the net.
You're telling me it's man against beast here, aren't you?
That's exactly what it is. Yeah. That's exactly what it is.
Talking to himself. This will be the moment he was dreaming of last night. Get in the big one. Leading at the last weigh-in, remember, by over 2 kilos. That was after 3 hours of fishing. He had a massive weigh-in last time around, 5.42 kilos. And we can't put his bag on the scales until he lands this one, can we?
You could see the nerves there. He just turned around and said something to the guy who's helping him on the bank. You've got to concentrate. You've got to really hook into these fish, to use one of your puns, when you're fighting them, because it's man against beast, and you've got to really mentally tune into what that fish is going to do and almost predict what's going to happen next. When it makes a move, you've got to move to counter it.
How important is it to have somebody alongside you? Like having a good caddy in golf?
Oh, I couldn't stand it. I couldn't.
Everybody's
He won't get a word in edgeways with you, though.
No, he wouldn't either. I'd be telling him what he was doing wrong. No, seriously, I don't like it. I like to be on my own. I just lock into the fish. But it's handy on an event like this, like Neil's finding there. He can just almost hand some of his nerves over. He's giving his nerves over to the coach.
Everybody's different. That's an individual thing. Some people like something like this. Some people just don't like it, and that's a purely individual thing with a person. But
you've seen a lot of it in World Championships, Tom. When a coach comes along and gives you some tips, do you want him to stay with you or just let him know there's the fish in the net?
I think what I like to know, I like to see somebody come and just say what's happening and leave it to it. Or somebody's catching on so and so. I don't particularly want anybody sat behind you chirping in your ear all the time. But I want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Talk to Stevie Gardner. He wants to know every angle what they're doing, every cast. He wants somebody sat there. He's got one. He's doing this. He wants to know everything. Now he keeps it in his head. I just don't know. But everybody's different.
He's got a big head.
Well, he has. Yeah.
Guys, it's in there. Let's go down and join Gary Norman.
Thanks, Rob. Well, that was 10 minutes from hooking that to bringing that onto the land. Up you come, Stuart. 2 fish in there. On your back, John. Here we come. Okay, peg 10. Neil Machin. Fish number 1. Fish number 2. A couple of kilos apiece. Anyway, let's have a look. Leading by 2. If this doesn't go to 4, I'll be amazed. And I'll tell you what, I'm just over. I'm not a bad judge, am I? Anyone thought I used to fish? 4.
20.
Go on, get it. Let it settle. It's your shout, not mine.
Yeah, 420.
420. 4 kilos 20 grams for Neil Machin.
And here's what that weighing has done to the leaderboard. Machin forges ahead, but Darren Cox won't let him get away. Andy Pickersgill and Chris Eves are battling too, and Mick Wright makes it to 8th. Barry Williamson's moving backwards in 9th, along with Glenn Thorne in 10th. But the strongly fancied Ian Dixon makes his first appearance, courtesy of a tiddler. There's still 2 to catch in Orange Fishermania 11.
Keith, Neil Machin there. If you can read anything from somebody's body language, he looks like a winner.
He's confident.
He personifies calmness at the moment, doesn't he?
It's quite cool.
He can't see Darren Cox. Darren Cox isn't in his eye line. Is this Cookie?
Cookie.
Yeah, there's your man Cookie's in now.
Mrs. Ringer.
Yeah.
Just after I spoke about him.
Yeah, now Steve...
You're going to have to explain that, I'm afraid, Steve, for people that are not in the in crowd in angling.
Basically, obviously everyone knows Fishermania and the Ringer family, you know what I mean, it's almost like one.
You and your dad have one.
Yeah, well, Steve Cook, he travels with us, we stay at his house, so obviously we've got Jeff's my dad, got my brother Phil, and Steve Cook got the nickname Mrs. Ringer.
I think it was Tight Lines that called him
I think it might have been yourself, Keith.
Was it me, really?
No, you wouldn't have that, would you?
And yeah, there is this. There's the newlywed Phil Ringer, right behind him.
Ringers everywhere. Is that good for your health? A cigarette as you smoke? I'm not sure.
Cigarette as you're fishing. Oh, could that be the golden fishy?
Oh, now then.
Hold on. No, it isn't. No, it could have been.
You scared the sponsors then, Keith.
Yeah, I was only teasing.
Just to tell you what he's talking about, there is a golden fish, a goldfish out there.
The orange fishy.
Has a super chip in it, and if that fish is caught, the man that catches it wins £25,000. But we're told here that there are about 1,000 or 100,000 fish in the lake, so you get about 100,000 to 1 chance of catching it this afternoon, and it will feel uncomfortable as well with a microchip in its belly.
I don't think he actually knew. Actually, he would have looked, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
I think he's forgot about that.
It's a tiny little cyno. It's actually under the skin. It's a really tiny thing. I mean, it's like a piece of pencil lead, and it's absolutely. They don't feel anything. It doesn't interfere with them at all.
It's Darren Cox there on peg 2, currently in 2nd place. He had a catch of 6.55 in the last weigh-in.
Well, I'm down on peg 15 with Steve Cook, ready for the weigh-in. He's caught 3 beautiful fish during this last session. Bert's going to weigh him in. Come on, Phil Ringer, come up with me. By the way, if you didn't already know, our dear Phil Ringer got married in the last 4 weeks, didn't you, Phil?
Yeah, I got married on June the 26th to my beautiful wife, Amanda.
Oh, bless. Congratulations. We're very happy for you. Look at these beautiful fish, though. What's he got in here, then? Talk this through.
He's got a 3 carp. We just caught 3 carp in the last half hour. We've got a nice bit of a ghost carp there, a nice common and a run of a ghosty in there. So we're.
We thought it was the gold one, actually.
Yeah, well, so did Steve when he hooked it.
Would have been nice, wouldn't it? A nice touch.
Yeah, I said to him, if we catch that one, we'll go home now.
But this is proving that it still is anybody's competition, isn't it?
So, yeah, we just hoping if the last hour and a half we can keep catching fish like this, we can catch her Neil up. So let's hope
There's
we keep
about
going.
10 kilos difference, so it's not that many fish really, is it? Let's come around and have a look at this then. At the moment he's in 13th position, so this is really important for him.
Yeah, this is his first decent weigh-in, so...
Got a bit of a problem here with the scales. Yeah, it's very...
If we can just keep putting 3 or 4 kilo on the net every weigh-in, then I don't think we'll be far away at the end. It's approaching 3 kilo, isn't it?
7 kilos,
Oh, sorry,
850.
7 kilos, 850, which is our biggest catch at a half-hour weighing. So his total, that brings him to a total of 9 kilos and 20. Steve Cook is catching them fast.
Thanks, Liz. We're just at Lee Woodhouse on peg 3. He's been kind of a steady Eddie all afternoon, just sure and steady, nothing too spectacular. Along this bank, we did have 3 of the top 4 on the early stages, but Lee's just dropped down a little bit into 5th place. Let's just see how he gets on this time. He's done pretty well with a couple of carp earlier on in the day. And he's done quite well this time too, because he's gone a little bit quieter on this bank. Just the one. Give us the verdict, Andre.
Lively. 1 kilo. One down.
Refusing to keep still for you, Andre.
Doesn't want to play the game.
He knows he's live on telly, that's what it is.
1 kilo 920. Yeah, 1 kilo 920.
Thanks, Andre. 1 kilo 920 for Lee Woodhouse.
So as the sun comes out here in South Yorkshire, the fishing action is hotting up. There is Darren Cox, who in the last half hour was in 2nd place, but in the last 30 minutes he hasn't caught a fish. As you can see from the expression on his face, he's going to have to change tactics.
He's gone onto the pole, but what he's doing is keeping feeding out further, and there's just some fish moving on his bait.
And there's Andy Pickersgill. He was the early leader, and Andy too has had a big fat 0 in the last weigh-in. Nothing to weigh at all, as you can see from his expression as well. Our current leader is Neil Machin, and he always leaves it to a gripping finale just before the weigh-in. The hooter goes, and then it's almost like the fish then jump onto the end of a pole. We always catch him just as he's toying with the fish.
It's like scoring a goal after 57 seconds of overtime at the first half. You can't come back.
Reminder, he can't do that come the final, hooter, because if it's not in the net, it don't count.
He's had this fish on quite a long time as well, so it's a big fish on. He's just thinking, I'm not sure I get this out, because if I get one, everybody else has now got to catch 2.
He's been steady with them though, Tom, and he's not been bullying them at all.
No, he's just making sure into. It's going to be wrapped around that camera in a minute.
Last time it looked 10 minutes to land a fish. Gary Norman talks us through it. Let's go down. Gary's amongst that cheering crowd.
Well, you heard the crowd. I've got to tell you, just behind me there are 5 or 6 deep, and a lot of his mates are giving him a lot of pressure, saying, take your time, mates, think of your mates, think of your mates. I think half of them have already spent his 25 grand. So if I can get the marshal, we've just got to 0 the net quickly. You can go down and get the net for me, Marshall. Pop down and get the net. There we go. So as I said, I'd say there's a good 200 people behind this peg. I've spotted the wife. She's on the phone. She's on the mobile. The little boy's telling me what he wants out of Dad's winnings, should it happen. But I'm sure we'll talk to them a bit nearer the time. Long way to go yet, as all the guys in the studio have alluded to. Here we go. This is a nice looking fish, I can tell you that. So he's 2.8 in front. Just over 2 keys in front. This is another 2 kilogram fish by the looks of it. It's over 2.5. This is going to put Coxie further behind. What is it? 2
kilos 720.
2 kilos 720. So he's going to increase his lead. Very dramatic down here on peg 10, I can tell you.
And there's how much the lead has increased. While Darren Cox struggles, Machin makes hay. His lead now very nearly 5 kilos, 2 decent fish in front. Steve Cook makes a major move to 4th, but Finley and Eves drop back. Stephen Ward joins the catchers at last, but there are no massive movements from 9th to 15th. The next big question to answer is, will Michael Flanagan catch a fish?
About an hour and a quarter left of Fishermania. Ian Dixon second to last, hoping that he has a good final, what's it going to be, 60, 75, 80 minutes. He's starting to catch, but is he going to come too late? Too much, too late for him.
Giving that fish some stick as well. And there it is.
That's a nice fish.
It's a good fish.
I think it just proves, Steve Cook's just proved how easy it is to come back. He's had 3 fish for 8 kilo.
That's not far short of 4 kilo, Tom, that fish.
That's probably 3.5 kilo, that. Might be bigger than that,
It might be bigger than that, yeah.
That might just push it, that. But that last catch of Sequels just proved that somebody, somewhere, can just catch 3-4 fish in half an hour back in the race.
Well, this is what's been happening. This is the lake. This is Hayfield Lake. That's where the fishermen are, and Kit's going to explain.
Well, what happened this morning, all along this bank here, there was a line of scum. It was floating algae. And
Glad you qualified that.
No, it had been caused by hot weather during the week. Now what's happened, we can see it from here, we've got the great advantage, it's all in this corner, which means what water movement has been that way. And the fish there, and the fish have gone with it. And this is why Ian Dixon, who's our man here, is catching what he's catching. The fish will follow whatever breeze there is, that's where they'll go. And that's what breeze there is at the moment.
At the moment, the top position is...
Neil Machin is here.
Peg 10.
You
were close.
Yeah, but there's no numbers on my screen. You see, that's it there. I'll make a good excuse.
This is why we call him the Andy Gray of fishing. Andy never moans about that. You've managed to find him. Rehooked. And in second place at the moment, of course, is Darren Cox, last year's runner-up. Where's he?
Got that one, didn't I?
Spot the ball.
Spot the ball, that's right. Darren's up there, and Lee Woodhouse next to him is just catching as well. And peg 1 next to peg 2, which I'm not going to risk.
The mirror image, of course, right on the other side of the lake is peg 15, which is where Steve Cook has had a fantastic half hour. He had over 7 kilos of fish, didn't he?
Yeah, he did as well. And he's caught another one since. We just saw he missed a bite. There was a fish there, and there's Cookie now.
Nobody would believe you if you said 5 hours of fishing could be gripping, but once people tune in, they tend not to stray away from the television. There is Steve Cook, whose great ambition in life is to win Fishermania twice. He was the champion back in 1999 with a catch of 31.6 kilos.
And he'll think now he can win this. He'll be absolutely so positive in this, what is it, an hour to go, just over an hour to go. He's got a fish in the net, so he's probably got 11 kilos, he's 6 kilos behind, 3 fish, and he will definitely think he's got a right good chance.
What's he using there, Tom? That's not a candle, is it?
It's a floating it's a floating feeder where he's putting floating pellets in, and it just floats on the surface. He's made big holes so they come out, just keeps pulling it, twitches them out. And when he casts it in, because it's just we're above it, you can actually see all the fish swirling at his pellets that are on the surface. There you go, just put the top back on, casting it back in. And he'll have a floating pellet on as well that's mixed in with all them that's coming out the feeder. In fact, it's quite interesting this year. I've actually seen quite a few things like the Andy Finley with the method feeder on end of his pole. And there's a few new methods this year, which is quite interesting. But that is an interesting one, that.
It's lovely to see the rod and line coming into play. I mean,
it's great, isn't it?
There have been criticisms of a lot of match fishing places. Look at that instantly,
into it. He'll win it now. He will. That's my.
Tommy,
having a pound on that, Tom?
I will definitely have a pound on that. I'll give you a chance. He'll win it now. Because one thing he doesn't do, he doesn't take his time. He knows how to play him. He'll get him out faster than anybody else.
Oh, he will, yeah.
If he gets this one, he's back in contention, and he'll only need one more. And he's catching at the right time, which is end of match.
Steve has been fishing for 39 years. He's had a break and a bit of sleep in between that, but...
I hope he took some sandwiches.
No, he'll be fishing in his sleep, Steve.
He does live for his fishing, doesn't he,
Oh,
Cookie?
yeah. And he's one of the most attacking anglers in fishing.
And he always was, before the commercial
Yes, he
fisheries
was.
came to the fore. He was a bream angler, and him and Ian Turner from
brilliant.
Works, they just went for it.
They won the Embassy Pairs.
Exactly.
And Ian won Fishermania,
First
of course.
Fishermania, yeah. Now look how quickly Cookie's got that fish to the net. As Gary said, Neil Machin played a fish for 10 minutes. Neil's taking his time. He knows it's not a big weight match. He can afford to take his time. He's in the front. Cookie's playing catch-up. He'll want to put as much pressure as he can on Neil Machin because he is in Neil Machin's eye line. Darren Cox isn't. Cookie is.
I'll tell you one thing for sure, Keith, is everybody will know Cookie's catching, and everybody will be worried now. If he's catching, the know is getting fishing is just almost unbeatable. Well, you saw that then.
And of course, he's said his mum Margaret hasn't been so well. If he does win it today, he's going to dedicate that to his mum, and he could be a very proud son for the family later today, couldn't he?
You'd only just cast that out as well, hadn't he? I've been in water 10 seconds and it took that bait.
Come to the splash, don't they?
Must have come straight to the splash.
There's Rob Hitchens now playing a fish on the pole.
He's got one in net as well. So,
yeah.
And he won't mess about with him either. I told you it was going to be exciting, didn't I?
I don't know if you've seen Rob, but Rob Hitchens has actually painted the top couple of metres of his pole grey. And the idea of that is when a fish looks up, it sees a black pole, it's a chance of spooking. A grey pole matches the colour of the sky. It looks up and it looks white. If you lay underwater, if you're ever silly enough to lay underwater in a swimming pool and look up, everything looks white or black. If you can take the black off that pole and make it white, you can't see it. That's an idea of camouflage. I know Tommy's old pal Dennis White has been doing it for nearly as long as me. For 20 years Dennis has been painting his pole white.
He's not as old as you, so... I can remember him doing it. It must be 20 years ago.
It is 20 years ago, yeah.
Is it 20 years ago?
Yeah.
There you go. Another one in the back of the net, as they say.
It's another proper fish as well. Wow. That's not far off of 3 kilos, that
Good
fish.
fish, that is a 3 kilo fish, yeah. But again, he's got 2 in there, he's back in the race, an hour to go. Cracker, these lads can catch 20 kilo.
This is going to be a huge weigh-in. At the moment, Rob Hitchens is standing at 4 kilos, 590. He's the local favourite. And just look at this bag. This could be one of the biggest weigh-ins that we've seen this year at Fishermania.
Is it heavy, that?
Okay, Bob. So round the scale goes for a second time and almost up for a third time.
Out the net.
Too heavy for the scales. This weigh-in's too heavy, so we're going to have to put a fish back in the net and we're going to have to weigh it separately. Just listen to the support that Rob Hitchens has got here. It's wonderful. What we know is that this is well over 10 kilos. He's currently in 7th position, so let's have a look now. Where are we at with this one, Bob? They just won't lie down, will they?
That's 8 kilos, 450.
So the first half of this weigh is 8 kilos, 450, which gives us 13 kilos and 40. But we've got another fish to go back into this net. So we'll just wait now while the steward gently puts these fish back in the holding net, in the keeping net that's in the lake. That's Bert gently handling everything back into the lake. And coming back now for the fish. The tension here is amazing down on Lakeside. Everybody's saying, will you lean on the scales, Liz? So much are they behind this local man. He really is a favourite of everybody here at Hayfield. And if you're sitting at home and you're enjoying this, there's still another hour, so why don't you come on down and join us? Okay, here we are. This is the other fish, so we've got 8.45.
1 kilo 800. Sorry, 1 kilo 800.
And 1 kilo 800, which gives us a total of 14 kilos 840. Rob Hitchens is in the race.
Ian Pickersgill, who at 1:15 this afternoon caught a fish that was 4.48 kilos 3.5 hours ago, and that fish at this moment in time is going to win him biggest fish of the day. The prize for that is £2,500. Now we could have a fish that is worth £2,500. Doesn't weigh it. We're going to find out in a moment because Ian Dixon has a big one. Here's Liz Hobbs.
Well, we've actually just weighed in Ian Dixon, and his total weigh-in was 7 kilos 580. Well, that's his running total. His total for the weigh-in was 7,280. So we're actually holding one of those fish here because we think it's going to be the biggest fish of the day. Come on, Paul, bring it up. Let's have a look. You wait till you meet this one. It's a beauty, absolute beauty, and it's certainly brought a smile to Ian Dixon's face. Remember, it's £2,500. Look at this, what a beautiful fish. Whoa, and it's dying to be weighed. So we're looking to beat 4.48 on the Richter scale here. Oh, and it's gone way past that. Here we go, let me come around this side, Bob.
That's 4 kilos 780.
Well, he may be some way off the £25,000 winner takes all check, but he's going to take home a tenth of that for this fish that weighs 4.78 kilos. That is the fish. That's how he landed it. Only the second fish he's landed today, but what a whopper.
It's a big fish, 10.5 pounds in old money, that is.
Yeah, good fish.
Big fish. And Ian Dixon's big one gets him on the leaderboard in 8th. But look at Rob Hitchens. He's also had a mega spell and he's up to 3rd behind Darren Cox and a becalmed Neil Machin. Is it too late for any of these anglers to win the title? Probably yes. But there's also Ian Dixon's big fish to be shot at, as well as that 25 grand orange fish. And here's our Manhattan, 13 to 16 and now almost symmetrical with 1 to 4. And that's all happened in just a single hour. Neil Machin on 10 is still out in front, but his lead's dwindling. And there's still a low point. Peg 6, Michael Flanagan, fishless. There's our 3 leaders.
Well, that is lucky peg 10. Neil Machin, the leader, is down there on peg 10 there, going solo. Catch so far of 17.77 kilos.
And Rob Hitchens in the right-hand picture there is trying his best not to look. He's got the blinkers on. He's only got to look.
I don't want to know.
He's only got to look just to his right, and he can see that. And he's. I don't want to know. I'm watching.
Well, Rob's refusing to look, isn't he? There to see what's going on around him there. Doesn't want to know. Doesn't want to know.
I'm not looking at the leaderboard. I won't look at the leaderboard. This is going to make a big difference, this fish.
A gorgeous day. If you're not interested in fishing, I'm sure you've been gripped by it so far. I'm going to take up your offer very soon, Keith, of going out on the riverbank.
Definitely.
With you. Wonderful, wonderful sunshine. Beautiful day out in the countryside in God's own country, Yorkshire.
That haze burnt off. That haze burnt off as everybody said it would this morning. The weather forecast. We got a very accurate local forecast from Sky Weather earlier on in the day, and they said that haze would burn off this afternoon, and we doubted it when it started to rain. We doubted it, but it's absolutely smack on at the moment. There's even the heat setting up a little bit of a breeze. You can just see the larch trees around the lake just starting to flutter a bit.
It's always like this in Doncaster. I keep telling you.
Okay.
There is Neil Machin. 3 different angles of our leader. He doesn't mind what it weighs as long as he gets it in, as long as he puts more pressure on those who threaten his lead. Darren Cox in 2nd place and Rob Hitchens in a magnificent last half hour of 10.25 kilos in his last catch. Of course, Steve Cook is coming good as well. Tom Mee said and reservedly that Steve Cook was going to win. Let me just remind you of that.
Oh, I know, I ain't caught one since I said it. Wish I'd never said it now. It's going to cost me £1, isn't it?
It's only my pound.
I know, but it wasn't mine.
Maybe it's a moment to bring in the voice of Jeff Ringer from the Fishing Family Ringer, who's joined us in the studio now. Winner back in the year 2000. He's been fishing over there on the Celebrity Lake. I know you do a bit of coaching of some of the big fishermen out there. Seems that Neil is going solo at the moment, obviously in his own world, Jeff.
Yeah, that's right. at the moment he's got a decent lead, and he gets this fish in the net, and it's a proper fish by the looks of things, because he's been playing it for 2 or 3 minutes now. It's just going to turn the screw, and it's interesting, isn't it, that Rob had a brilliant half hour. He's not caught a fish since. It's almost as though a few fish drifted down on the breeze. And that's the cheer as he gets that fish, and it is
2.5 kilos.
Yeah, 2.5, 3 kilos.
And what that's done, that's like in basketball. That's a 4-point fish, because now you need 2 baskets to catch it up. You're not going to catch it up with 1. You need 2. Somebody needs 2 fish now.
He might need 3, because he had a 3 kilo lead anyway, so he's probably got a 5 to 5.5 kilo.
Which is at least 2 fish.
At least 2 fish, yeah.
Although there's been a few proper fish. There's been 3 and 4 kilo fish caught.
Yeah. But there's not been many 5.5, 6, and that's a 1 fish lead. He's definitely got a 2 fish lead.
And with half an hour to go, or 30 odd minutes to go, it's every minute now is counting down closer.
Right, Rob Hitchens, remember, in the last half hour, 10.25 kilos in his catch. What a wonderful half hour he had, and he's having a pretty good time at the moment. He sneaks into 3rd place, and he could be doing even better than that, Keith.
That's a smaller fish he's got there, but it's 1.5 kilos still, maybe even 2. And Darren now has gone over. He's gone back to what he knows best. He's fishing for his smaller fish, for his crucians, fishing for bites, probably on chopworm. And he's just put a crucian carp in his net, and he's just looking to softly creep up. He's hoping that Neil's fish have deserted him, so he can just concentrate on catching the smaller fish.
Robert, of course, was banned from this particular lake after winning 22 matches in a row. Lives only 15 minutes away. He was allowed back in, continued to dominate things, and at the moment he's in the shadows of Neil Machin and of Darren Cox there, hoping that in the last 2 weigh-ins, the next one is imminent. Of course, that final weigh-in shortly after 5 o'clock. It's gripping last year. Doesn't get any better than this, said Tommy Pickering. Well, it does this year.
Fantastic. There's another one up who's got it. Rob.
Again.
This is just exactly the same as last year, isn't it? It's very, very tense. I reckon
Rob Hitchens, and you said down to the wire, didn't you?
Yeah.
You were right, down to the wire.
It's fantastic. Peg to peg battle, and they can both see each other. I wonder what they're both thinking.
Just get it in quickly.
One's thinking, oh yes, and the other one's fishing, oh no.
But if he gets this, it's going to be probably a kilo in it, at most.
That pole must seem a million miles long for Rob Hitchens, mustn't it?
When he gets the pole out, he's got some elastic after that.
He's even playing this. Now, he's almost taking his time now. I'm not even sure whether he's taking his time because it's a big fish or whether he realises the importance.
If people are just tuning in for the first time, let me just reiterate what the rules are. That when they do this weigh-in, they can wait until the fish goes on the scales. But when they do the final hooter, which is shortly after 5 o'clock, once the hooter's gone, if the fish is still in the water and it isn't in the net, it don't count.
It doesn't count. This is a big fish.
It's got a lot of elastic out.
Yeah.
Almost silence down there. Reverence from the anglers that are following Rob Hitchens.
This is almost like a bungee effect now. That elastic will gradually retract itself back into the pole and draw the fish closer. It's a fascinating way of fighting fish. It certainly doesn't do all the work. A lot of people think that the elastic does all the work. It doesn't. The wrong person on the end of that elastic loses the fish.
What he certainly doesn't want is a tail.
Oh, that's a good fish.
The one that got away.
No.
Has to be sure. Has to take his time. Slight wind here. There's a lot of supporters. He's a local boy.
This with the other fish in his net. I don't know how big the one Neil got. Did Neil's got a fish to go on?
Yeah,
hasn't
that's
he?
right. Yeah, so they'll cancel out, and that'll leave about a 3 kilo gap, minus this fish.
This fish is 3 kilos.
It looks it. It's a big fish, this one.
3 kilos behind. Remember, Neil Machin has caught a fish in the last half hour. We thought it was a couple of kilos. All will be revealed when we have the next weigh-in.
But Rob's got another fish in his net as well.
He's got 2, of course, hasn't he?
Well, he's got one in his net and he's got this one, which isn't in the net yet.
I don't want to be presumptuous.
Exactly
I know he will.
right.
I know he will. Of course, he's finished 4th twice last year and back in '99 as well. This is his 3rd Fishermania. Said he's only been fishing 10 years.
He hasn't been fishing long, no.
He more or less started when Hayfield opened.
Yeah, he did, yeah. I mean, when he came down, When he came down here and he just took the place apart, it was incredible with that pace, that wonder pace.
But the methods he used, Tom, just looked funny, didn't they? They were alien. He had a lot of float sticking out the water. But a lot of people now have based what they do now with what Rob was doing then.
Just to qualify, that will be weighed in this way, and it won't go to the final one, will it?
Yes.
It's a ghost carp.
And Cookie's got one next peg as well.
And a reminder, we saw Neil Machin just a few moments ago catch one fish that we think was around 2 kilos, don't we?
We'll know. If he gets this one out, we'll know.
Don't ask me why, Rob, but I can't, because I can't tell you, but ghost carp fight harder than any of the other carp.
You mean you don't know?
And in the first time we've ever stumped Keith Arthur.
And in the last hour, they fight harder than normal ghost carp. They do. They just are crazy, crazy fish.
Specially trained for Fishermania.
That's a big fish. That's also the biggest fish, that one. Going to pound on that.
Remember, the biggest fish of the day so far is 4.78 kilos. And that was Ian Dixon. He stands to win £2,500 for the biggest fish of the day. This...
It's got to be £11, Tom. It's not £11. I don't think so.
It's not an £11, I know.
Where he's playing that, that's a big fish.
It's a ghosty, Tom.
Come on, let me put you on the spot. You are the expert, Keith. Go on, before it rears its head above the water.
Out the water
no,
first?
you can't. You just have to tell them the riddle. No, look.
That's going to put him in front.
That's 3.5 kilo,
yeah.
Here we go again.
Here we go. Game on.
Been here before, haven't we? Well, just a reminder that on the last leaderboard, Rob Hitchins was 3 kilos behind. That could well be the fish, because he's got more in his net, remember, that gives him the lead. £25,000 to winner of Fishermania 11. Rob Hitchins, maybe somewhere at the back of his mind, is thinking about spending that money.
Well, unfortunately, it's gone a little bit quieter from this bank. All the excitement has gone over to the other banks. It's gone a little bit quieter over this side. Darren not happy at the moment in terms of the weight of the fish that he's catching. Not quite as big as he'd like. He was second. Of course, he was so tantalisingly close last year. Lost out in the dying seconds to Matt Hall. And he just might be slipping out of it at the moment, because all the action over the other side with Rob Hitchins may just be taking it away. Andre, it's your call.
1 kilo 280. 1 kilo 280.
So this could be enough, and the crowd are going to go wild if this is enough weight. Okay, where are we with this one, Bob?
5 kilos 950.
5 kilos 950 for Rob Hitchins then. It's a great weigh-in. It's putting him well into the running with a total weight of 20 kilos 790.
It's not only the weather that's hotting up, and there's the confirmation of Liz Hobbs' words. Local hero Rob Hitchins hits the front with only the last lap to go. Neil Machin and Darren Cox are doing their best, but Hitchins has more than just the crowd going for him. It's all as you were from 9th to 16th, and all are struggling. Not even a big fish or two can change things, and it's not even a stickleback for Michael Flanagan. There's the two leaders, both with a hint of a smile. Can Hitchins scent victory? Does Machin know the scores? This is Rob Hitchins' catch chart, and it makes fascinating reading. He told me that the final 90 minutes on 13 to 16 would be crucial, and he's not wrong. He's netted 16 kilos of fish in 60 minutes.
Robert Hitchins, 40 years of age, maybe at the peak of his powers. This is his home lake. Once banned from winning too many matches in a row here, he came up with a wonder paste, so they called it. I don't know what he's using today, but it's going to net him £25,000, the way things stand.
He could be using his own floating pellets, he could be using dog food, he doesn't care what he's using at the moment. What he needs, right now, he needs all the bottle in the world. He's just got to keep his nerve. He mustn't think about the 25 grand.
Clearly doesn't know he's going to have to spend it on going to wide, does he?
Just a little snatch of that, didn't you then? A little snatch then.
Nobody there to say anything.
No, that's right.
Hush.
It is nail-biting stuff. It is.
Wait for the cheer. Because this lot will go crackers.
It's another ghostie. They just do not give up. I tell you what's going through his mind. Is mine not safe? Has the elastic worn on the bush? Is the point of the hook gone? Is there not going to step over the spade of the hook? All those things.
Think of them?
Absolutely. All those things. Well, it's 25 grand, I would, Tom. All those things are going through his mind now. All of those things.
You'll think of them.
No.
I don't think of them.
No, I think in all honesty, when you're catching, you don't worry about any of that. When you're catching and you're doing it and it's working for you, and you're putting fish in the net, everything's okay.
I'll get them in the back of my mind pretty quickly, but they always jump in there. Those little nasty gremlins sitting on this shoulder and the lovely angel sitting on this shoulder have a fight.
Go on.
Oh, here.
Get in there.
That could be the winner.
That's a proper fish.
That could be the one that nets Rob Hitchens £25,000. Nobody dare quite put the name on the cheque just yet after last year's events, and we've had some gripping finishes in previous years as well. Remember back in '96, Dave Pimmock winning by just 4 ounces. Well, at the moment, we judge it in kilos these days, of course. Rob Hitchens has a lead of 1.5 kilos over Neil Machin.
That fish is hooked in the tail.
Yeah.
You see the way the line's going, it's hooked in the tail. And the trouble is, as I said before, fish can't swim backwards. They don't swim backwards because water going through their gills the wrong way can be fatal. So you have to be really gentle but firm. You've got to. They'll relax. They close their gills. You can pull them back. And that's what he's trying to do. He's been a long time on this fish, and it's not necessarily a big fish. He'd rather have it than not, though.
I was going to say, because you've got to get. He's got to get the fish in before the final hooter, because once the hooter goes, then any fish still in the water, not in the net by then, don't count.
He's got to get it. He needs another one as well.
He needs 2, doesn't he?
He's still got about 9 minutes, and what he'll be looking to do is bring the fish actually in front of his landing net, putting the net in and letting the fish swim down into it. And it's not as easy as it sounds. We've all been there. As I said to you, we try not to foul hook fish for several reasons. And one of them is that they are much more difficult to land. You can't guide them. It's like that ball with a ring through its nose I told you about. Pulled it by its tail, what would happen? Wouldn't like you much, would it?
He's got it.
And
Oh no! Remember, he's 1.5 kilos behind.
Oh,
he's lost it.
And he has lost the fish. He smiles, but his heart is breaking.
It's a smile of resignation. That's a smile of resignation.
If that had been in the middle of the match, he would have caught that. It's just he knows he's got to get in for another fish, and he's just tried to give it a bit more when he's tried to scope it with net.
The fish fell in the water and maybe down to the bottom of the lake. With it went £25,000. Look at this.
Look at that. Yeah. Because he's pulling the tail up into the net, and of course you want the tail to go in. The fish was 6 inches not back far enough. If he'd have got another 6 inches back, it would have dived down into the net instead of diving across the front of it. That's real bad luck.
Was it nerves?
No, I think
anxiety. It's not nerves. No. It's anxiety. It's trying to gain a second.
He knows he's got to catch another fish, and he's just trying to give it probably a bit too much at the end. If that had been middle of the match, he would have got that. He'd spent another 2 minutes and made sure he got it. You can't blame the bloke. I mean, end of the day, he's trying to win the event. He knows he needs another fish, and that's the only reason.
Try to reverse it in.
Yeah.
He's also got to check that hook as well, because he's hooked it in a bony part of its body. It could have damaged the point of the hook. It could have opened the hook out slightly. You can see he's taking a lot of time. He may be tying on a new hook.
I got a feeling it might have broken him actually.
It might have done.
Across the rim and the net.
Caught on the net. Yeah.
I suppose it's the equivalent of hitting the crossbar, really, isn't it? And it came back out the wrong way. Neil Machin remained in second place, 1.5 kilos behind Rob Hitchens, who has been in exceptional form in the last, or especially in the last half hour. He got just under 6 kilos in the net. He leads by 1.5 kilos. His girlfriend is going to spend the £25,000 on the honeymoon to Hawaii. If he loses, it could be Cleethorpes in a caravan.
What's wrong with Cleethorpes, by the way?
Here's a reminder of how the scores stood with 30 minutes left, and 25 of those 30 have gone. We know Hitchens has netted at least one good fish, and we know Machin has lost one. Has the title been decided in those few vital seconds? This is what happens. You can see the fish coming backwards. The net goes in, it lifts the fish, but its head isn't quite in. The fish makes a leap, and it's gone. Has 25 grand gone with it? You know then your name's not on it, didn't you?
Yeah, he's biting his bottom lip on the right-hand side.
If he hooks one now and gets it out, he will be really gutted.
He's had a wonderful year, hasn't he?
Oh, fantastic. He has had a wonderful year, but that's when you think you can win everything.
Yeah.
When you're on that run, you don't think you can be beat.
He's fished a good match today, though.
Yeah, he has fished a good match.
Yeah. He's done the right thing from where he is.
He was the first person to do something different as well.
Yeah.
He realised what he was doing was going nowhere, and he made a change, and it worked.
There is Rob Hitchens, not being distracted by our lake camera. It's doing the full 360 turn of him, and maybe welcome it going down into the lake and having a look underneath, see if there's anything close to his bait. As it stands, if neither he nor Neil Machin catch anything, he's going to be taking away the winner takes all prize. Biggest prize in fishing. There is no bigger prize than the £25,000 for FishOMania. We're into the final 5 minutes. It could be the most joyous 5 minutes of his fishing life. Could make his honeymoon a bit more enjoyable as well if his girlfriend is.
Go on, let's go.
If he gets this, there's no way back. I don't think.
Oh no.
I don't think there's any way back for Neil now anyway, but if Rob gets this, it's all over.
Neil knows that fish is on. Neil's heard that, and he's, again, like Rob was earlier, he's doing his darndest not to look.
Yeah.
Rob's been catching bigger fish as well. His fish on average have been bigger than Neil Machin's.
We had a very slow start to the day, didn't we? We raised a bit of a laugh when he said, well, the fish are going to come around 3:30. He caught nothing at between was it at the 3:30 weigh-in, but since then,
well, he's a local expert. He'd know, wouldn't he? He knows more than anybody.
The other 15 competitors would wish that that ban that he had from this particular lake was still in place today. Glistening sunshine. He's got just over 3.5 minutes to land this fish. If that one goes, that is the winner. That is the £25,000 fish. That confirms him as the FishOMania champion.
That's the one.
He said something about being presumptuous just now. There's still 3 minutes to go. You know? But I would say that's game, set, match.
You think he feels good now?
I think he does,
He knows as well, doesn't he?
There is Neil Machin. He's in second place. Remember, he was 1.5 kilos behind. He knows what's going on. He can't see what's going on around the corner, but he knows that, well, he's second. He did say earlier in the programme when we spoke to him that he's just happy to be here, to be rubbing shoulders with the country's top fisherman, with the spotlight of the television on him.
Yeah.
We know.
He just had a sneaky little look then, though, didn't he? He just had to look over to see Rob. You can just see.
He's thinking about catching another one yet, Rob.
Oh yeah.
He's
enjoying his fishing, Tom. He's enjoying catching fish.
He's so focused. He's really, really focused.
No, we go fishing to catch fish.
Yeah.
Reminder, Keith, that Neil Machin, who's in second place, hit the rim of the net, lost to the fish, which psychologically would have put pressure on Rob Hitchens, and he has nothing at the final weigh-in. Nothing. He's got 2 minutes. 2 minutes to catch a fish, and it's got to be, well, 1.5 kilos plus whatever that fish is that Rob Hitchens has just bagged.
It's certainly got to be bigger than the biggest fish weighed in a match so far.
Yeah. But they're living there, but he's got 2 minutes to get it out, which is very difficult.
There's 100,000 fish in there. He just needs to find one that is, what, 5 or 6 kilos.
He's running out of time now.
Yes. That catapult tastes sweet at the moment. I don't know what he's had in it this afternoon, but he won't take
3 already, I think.
Any taste he's got is a success. He'll be washing it down with champagne in about a minute and a half's time.
Closely followed by Lake Water.
Yeah, I wonder if he realises that. So I think somebody's just pointing out to him, the tradition is if you win,
You're
maybe a home lake, you may know it well, but you've got to go in there.
There's a few 100 Yorkshiremen that stood behind him that will make sure he goes in.
It's the reverse of the normal thing, isn't it? If you win it, you're in it.
You're in it.
Any consolation there for Neil Machin, who we just saw, is that he's going to stay dry.
Just a minute to go. Just a minute to go.
Behind every great fisherman is a great lady. There's Anne, soon to be Anne Hitchens, his fiancée. I don't know if she's broken the news to him. She's got a lovely tan now. But honey, we want Hawaii.
Something we haven't mentioned that's been behind Rob all day is Johnny Howard. Oh, this is where he fishes, this is where he grows up. So he's got a good partner as well that's been helping him.
Another regular finalist,
Another
Johnny.
regular lad, yeah, and he fishes all the events, and he's been in the final as well, hasn't he, Johnny? Yeah, last year, tipped a fish back, didn't he? And so he's got good hands behind him as well that's been keeping him informed.
Here we go, 10. This is the countdown. Cape Canaveral, South Yorkshire. What a beautiful day for Robert Hitchens. Music to his ears.
Well done, Rob.
Undoubtedly, Robert Hitchens, the undisputed winner of FishOMania XI, the local favourite who was once banned from Hayfield Lakes, is back with a bang. And in a few moments' time, he's going to be washing down the champagne and taking a £25,000 cheque. Calmly brings his equipment in, packs everything away, studious fisherman, with a massive fan club behind him. And you can ask him to take that catapult out of his mouth in a moment as we hear from him. Let's go down to Lakeside in a moment and we'll hear from Gary Norman. But what a disappointment it has been for Neil Machin, leading for a large part of the afternoon. The penultimate weigh-in, he was a kilo and a half behind. I mean, he must be sad. I've got tears in my eyes for him because he had a fish that could have given him the lead at one point. He lost it. He's heartbroken. Let's hear from Gary Norman.
Immense disappointment down here. Immense disappointment down here. What can you say? You saw it. I wish I could have seen it. He was 6 inches away from 25 grand. But the thing is, we'll never know. That's FishOMania for you.
Indeed, would it?
No, I don't think it was.
Thank you, Gary. And in he goes, the FishOMania tradition, head first into the lake. He joins the countless fish that he's managed to hook out of there this afternoon. Over 20 kilos of them. Well, the man who feels like he's at the bottom of the lake at the moment. He came second place, he came runner-up, but they say you get nothing for finishing second. Commiserations there to Neil Machin.
For Rob Hitchens, who could be the FishOMania champion for 2004, and what a worthy local champion he is. Such massive support from everybody locally. A lovely fish. A couple of nice fishes in there too.
Brilliant.
You just can't believe this, can you?
I don't think they were going to come.
How are you feeling?
I'll let you know if I've definitely won it.
Right, well, let's have a look. Look at it this way. And the final weight, Bob.
4 kilos, 280.
4 kilos, 280.
There's the confirmation, the final leaderboard. We've seen Andy Pickersgill and Darren Cox dominate the early stages. Then Neil Machin took over. But as Rob Hitchens predicted, they turned on in the high numbers late in the day. Who knows, another 30 minutes could have been enough for Ian Dixon from nowhere to third in 1 hour. He at least has the consolation of the biggest fish. But today was Hitchens' day. Here's the final tally of the remaining 8 places. You've got to remember they each won a big event to reach the final, and they've all played a magnificent part in making it a great one. Maybe their turn will come next year, when we'll all be back at the same place, doing it all again. and Michael Flanagan did catch a fish. Bob Nudd, 4 times world champion and 4 times Fishermania Celebrities champion, captained his team to success. Richard Hines returned from youth international duty to take the junior title, and Diane Semley wins the ladies' crown. Ian Dixon has his £2,500 big fish consolation, but the winner who takes it all is Rob Hitchens, Orange Fishermania champion 2004. Here's our Master of Ceremonies, John McDonald.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, the moment we've all been waiting for. To receive his cheque for £25,000. The coveted trophy, the magnum of champagne, but most important of all, the title of Orange Fishermania 11, Rob Hitchens! "25 kilos, 70 grams, the Orange Fishermania champion, Rob Hitchens."
Robert Hitchens, £25,000 richer. And also he has that great title of Fishermania champion 2004. No man has ever won it twice, and that is going to take pride of place on his mantelpiece at home. The golden fin.